Hey everyone, and welcome to AnzenGuard Podcast. I'm Michael Reynolds.
And I'm Laura Wilson.
And we are your hosts for today's deep dive.
That's right.
Into a topic that's especially close to home for those of you who love to travel.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about keeping your identity safe while traveling.
Absolutely.
And we've got some really insightful tips for you today.
We do.
That go way beyond the usual, don't use public Wi-Fi advice.
Yes, definitely beyond that.
So are you ready to, seriously travel-proof your identity?
Let's do it.
Let's get started.
Absolutely. Michael, what's fascinating about this topic is that it really emphasizes this principle we can all relate to packing light.
Okay.
But instead of our luggage, we're talking about unpacking our critical documents and data before we even head to the airport.
Okay. I'm intrigued you've officially piqued my curiosity. So what does this unpacking actually look like in practice?
So think about it this way. Do you really need your Social Security card or a stack of bank statements tucked away in your wallet while you're exploring, a new city?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Leaving those non-essential documents at home in a secure location dramatically reduces your risk.
Right.
And if you absolutely need something like a medical record, you can always make a copy and leave the original behind. You can even store copies securely online just in case.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like choosing the carry-on versus checking the massive suitcase.
Yeah.
You want to travel light and smart.
Right.
And that applies to sensitive information too.
Exactly.
Speaking of being smart, let's talk about the ever-present temptation that is unsecured Wi-Fi.
Oh, yes.
Those free Wi-Fi signs that beckon us from every cafe and airport lounge.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Everywhere.
Public Wi-Fi, it's convenient, but it can be a minefield for your personal data.
Oh, yeah.
Public Wi-Fi networks often lack proper data encryption, which means that anyone with the right tools and malicious intent could potentially see what you're doing online.
Oh, wow.
We're talking about everything from your login credentials to your browsing history and even credit card information.
It's really scary.
They could be digitally eavesdropping right alongside you as you're sipping your latte.
It's enough to make you want to just ditch your devices altogether and retreat to a tech-free cabin in the woods. But seriously, how can we stay safe when we're practically surrounded by unsecured Wi-Fi?
I get it. It can feel overwhelming, but there are definitely steps you can take to browse more safely. First, always look for HTTPS at the beginning of a website address.
Okay.
That S is crucial for security. It means the site is using encryption to protect your data.
So even if someone is snooping, the information being transmitted is scrambled like a secret code.
Exactly. Another powerful tool you have at your disposal is a VPN or a virtual private network. A VPN creates a secure tunnel for your internet traffic, making it much harder for anyone to intercept your data. Think of it as your own personal digital bodyguard shielding your online activity.
I used to think VPNs were just for tech-savvy folks or people doing something super secret. But ever since I started using one for all my travel, it's incredible how much peace of mind it gives me. It's like having an extra layer of protection between me and all the digital unknowns out there.
Absolutely.
Speaking of peace of mind going out the window, I remember this one time I almost fell victim to a Wi-Fi scam.
Oh no, what happened?
I was desperate for internet, and I connected to this random network without thinking twice. One of those networks with a generic name like Free Public Wi-Fi.
Oh yeah, I've seen those.
And luckily, I realized that something was fishy before I entered any sensitive information.
Okay.
But it was a close call, though, and it definitely made me much more cautious.
That's a great point. When we're traveling, it's easy to let our guard down.
Right.
We're in unfamiliar environments, maybe a bit jet-lagged, and just eager to connect.
Totally.
But that's exactly when we need to be the most vigilant, always double-check the network name, and be wary of any requests for personal information that seem out of place.
Yeah, and remember, if you're using a public computer, like in a hotel lobby or internet cafe, always delete your browsing history and cookies afterwards.
Yes.
It's like wiping away your digital footprint so no one can follow your trail.
Exactly. Now let's shift our focus to another potential pitfall for travelers. ATMs, you're in a new city, you need cash, and there's a conveniently located ATM beckoning you.
Happens to the best of us.
It seems harmless enough, right?
It does, yeah. But I have a feeling there's more to this story.
There is those non-bank ATMs, the ones you find in convenience stores, tourist spots, or tucked away in less secure locations, are often prime targets for card skimmers and shimmers.
What?
These sneaky devices are designed to steal your card information and PI without you even realizing it.
They're like digital pickpockets lurking in the shadows, just waiting to swipe your valuable data.
Exactly.
So how can we avoid falling victim to these card skimming culprits?
To minimize your risk, try to stick to ATMs located inside banks.
Okay.
They tend to have better security and more frequent oversight.
And let's face it, as travelers, we might not notice those fraudulent charges on our accounts until we're back home, unpacking our suitcases, sifting through receipts.
Right.
That delay gives the thieves a head start.
Yeah.
Which is why being extra cautious from the get-go is so important.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about something we all rely on, especially when we're on the go, our smartphones.
Oh, yes.
These devices have become our lifeline,
They really have.
holding everything from our travel itineraries and contact information to our photos and even our banking apps.
It's like our phones are extensions of ourselves,
They are.
containing a digital snapshot of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And just like we unpack our physical documents for safer travels, we need to think about how we're packing our phones digitally speaking.
That's a great analogy, Michael. The sheer amount of personal information we store on our phones is staggering.
It is.
So how do we digitally unpack for safer travels?
Yeah, how do we do it?
First and foremost, secure your phone with a strong password or biometric lock.
Okay.
It seems like a simple step, but it's absolutely crucial.
Right, and don't forget to log out of apps,
Yes.
especially those that contain sensitive information like banking or email.
Especially those.
I know it's tempting to stay logged in for convenience, but it's a major risk if your phone is lost or stolen.
It is.
Would you leave your front door unlocked while you're away?
It's all about striking that balance between convenience and security. And while we're on the topic of risky behavior, I have to mention the tendency we all have to be a bit more click-happy on our phones.
Oh, tell me about it.
I'm much more likely to click on a random link or open a suspicious email on my phone than on my computer.
Me too.
Maybe it's the smaller screen, the constant distractions, or the fact that we're always on the move.
Yeah, maybe.
Whatever the reason, it's essential to be just as cautious with links and emails on your phone as you would be on any other device. Remember, those phishing scams are designed to trick you into giving up your personal information. They're like digital traps luring you in with enticing bait.
They are. And here's a thought that might send chills down your spine. It's not just our own identities we need to protect. We also need to be extra vigilant when traveling with children.
You're absolutely right, Michael. Child identity theft is a growing problem, and travelers with children need to be aware of the unique risks involved. A child's social security number is incredibly valuable to criminals because it comes with a clean credit history. It can be years before the theft is even detected.
Wow.
Which makes it even more devastating.
It's heartbreaking to think about, but unfortunately it's a reality we need to face. So what can parents do to protect their children's identities, especially while traveling?
The first rule of thumb, never carry your child's social security card unless it's absolutely necessary. If a business or organization asks for it, always inquire if they can accept an alternative form of identification.
And I imagine if you do have to share the number,
Yes.
be sure to ask how they'll protect the information and how long they'll keep it on file.
Exactly. It's all about being proactive and advocating for your child's privacy. Now, let's imagine you've returned home from your amazing trip. You're unpacking your bag, sorting through souvenirs, and reminiscing about all the incredible experiences you had.
It's that bittersweet feeling of coming back to reality after an adventure.
But before you settle back into your routine, there's one more crucial step. The post-trip identity checkup. Take some time to review your bank statements, credit card activity, and even medical insurance claims. Look for any transactions you don't recognize. Remember, thieves can be patient. They might wait weeks or even months to use stolen information.
That's a good reminder. We tend to let our guard down once we're back in familiar surroundings.
And to do.
But that's precisely when we need to be vigilant. It's like checking for any unwanted souvenirs that might have hitched a ride in our luggage.
Exactly. Think of it as a post-trip health check, but for your finances and personal information, a few minutes of careful review could save you a lot of trouble down the road. And while you're at it, here's a quick but potentially impactful tip: the password shuffle.
I love a good password shuffle. Tell me more.
It's simple. Really change your passwords before, during, and after your trip.
Before, during, and after.
It might seem like overkill, but it disrupts any attempts by thieves to access your accounts. They might have captured your old password, but if you change it before you leave, their efforts are thwarted.
It's like changing the locks on your house before going on vacation.
Exactly.
An extra layer of security just in case someone's trying to sneak in.
Precisely, changing your passwords again when you return home ensures that any compromised credentials are rendered useless.
It's all about staying one step ahead of the bad guys.
Yes.
And speaking of extra steps, what about RFID blocking technology?
Oh, good question.
I've heard it mentioned, but I'm not entirely sure what it is or why it's important.
That's a great question. Michael, RFID stands for radio frequency identification. These tiny chips are embedded in our credit cards, passports, and even some driver's licenses. They store our personal information and can be read wirelessly by scanners.
So in theory, someone could just walk by me with a scanner and steal my data without me even knowing it.
It's possible.
That sounds a bit like science fiction.
It might sound futuristic, but it's a real possibility, although it's not as easy as it seems in the movies.
Okay.
The scanners need to be relatively close to the chip, and most modern credit cards and passports have built-in security features to prevent unauthorized access.
Okay, that's a bit reassuring. But I'm still curious about RFID blocking technology.
Yeah.
What exactly is it and how does it work?
RFID blocking products like wallets, passport covers, and even bags are designed with a special lining that blocks radio waves, preventing scanners from reading the information stored on your RFID chips. It's like creating an invisible shield around your sensitive data.
So it's an extra layer of protection, especially when we're traveling in crowded areas or unfamiliar environments.
Exactly. Think of it as part of your travel safety kit alongside your sunscreen first aid kit and travel insurance.
It's amazing how much we've covered already. We've gone from unpacking our documents to shielding our devices from digital snoopers. And now we're talking about invisible shields for our data. It's like we're on a mission to create the ultimate travel security fortress.
And that's precisely what we're doing, Michael. It's all about building those layers of protection, both physical and digital, so you can travel with confidence and peace of mind. But we've got even more to unpack in this deep dive, so stay tuned. We'll be back in a flash with more tips and strategies to keep your identity safe while you're out there exploring the world.
I'm ready for the next level of travel proofing. Welcome back to the AnzenGuard Podcast, where we're deep diving into how to travel proof your identity.
That's right.
Before the break, we were talking about RFID blocking and all the layers of protection you can build to safeguard your information.
Absolutely.
It's like creating a personalized security system for your identity. But let's not stop there.
Let's not.
There are even more savvy strategies to uncover.
Here's one that might surprise you. Consider setting up a dedicated travel email address.
Okay, now that's an idea I haven't heard before. Why is a separate email address specifically for travel so important?
Well, think about it. When you're traveling, you're more likely to be using public Wi-Fi, which, as we've discussed, can be a risky proposition.
Right.
If you're logging into your regular email account, especially a work account, you're potentially exposing a lot of sensitive information. It's like leaving a window open in your digital home.
So as a separate travel email acts as a buffer zone, protecting your primary email accounts from potential snooping.
Precisely. You can use this travel email for booking confirmations, communication with local contacts, or anything that doesn't require accessing your main accounts.
Okay.
It minimizes the potential damage if someone does manage to intercept your online activity.
That's definitely going on my travel prep checklist from now on.
Good idea.
Speaking of checklists, earlier we were discussing the importance of protecting children's identities while traveling.
Yes.
It's a topic that deserves more attention.
It does. As we mentioned, child identity theft is a growing concern, and it often goes undetected for years because of those clean credit histories.
Right.
It's crucial for parents to be extra vigilant about how they handle their children's travel documents and personal information.
What are some practical steps parents can take to safeguard their children's identities?
The golden rule is to never carry your child's social security card unless it's absolutely unavoidable.
Go.
If a business or organization requests it, always inquire if they can accept an alternative form of identification. You'd be surprised how often there's another option.
That's a good point. And if you do have to share the number,
Yes.
always ask how they'll protect the information and how long they'll keep it on file. It's about being your child's advocate and taking those extra steps to protect their privacy.
Exactly. Now let's shift our focus to something almost everyone uses while traveling: credit cards.
Oh, yes.
They're convenient, but they also present potential risks.
You're right. It seems like we're always swiping, tapping, or inserting those cards, especially when we're exploring new places. So how can we make sure we're using credit cards safely and responsibly while on the go?
One strategy is to designate a specific credit card for travel expenses.
Okay.
That way, if something does go wrong, you can easily track the fraudulent charges and minimize the impact on your other accounts. It's like having a separate travel budget, but for security.
That's a smart move. I usually just grab whatever card happens to be at the top of my wallet. Not the most strategic approach, I admit.
It's all about creating those systems that streamline your security efforts. Another crucial tip is to be super aware of your surroundings when using your credit card in public places, be mindful of who might be watching, and shield your PN when entering it at a point-of-sale terminal. You never know who might have ill intentions.
It's like that old saying, trust but verify. Or in this case, be cautious, be aware, and protect your data.
Now, here's a tip that might seem a bit counterintuitive. Change your passwords before and after your trip.
Change passwords before the trip. That's a new one.
Yeah. Think of it as a proactive strike against potential hackers. They might have captured your old password through some sneaky means, but if you change it before you leave, their efforts are thwarted. You've essentially shut the door on them.
It's like changing the locks on your house before going on vacation, an extra layer of security just in case someone's trying to get in.
Exactly. And changing your passwords again when you return home ensures that any compromised credentials are rendered useless. You've essentially double-locked that door.
It's all about outsmarting those digital mischief makers. So we've got RFID blocking dedicated travel email addresses and the pre- and post-trip password shuffle. What other identity protection gems have we unearthed?
Let's talk about what happens if, despite our best efforts, the unthinkable occurs. You suspect your identity has been stolen.
Okay, deep breaths, everyone.
It's not a pleasant topic, but it's important to be prepared.
Okay, we can handle this. What are the crucial steps to take if we find ourselves in this unfortunate situation?
The most important thing is to act quickly and decisively. The first step is to contact the relevant authorities and institutions, report the suspected theft to the police, the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, and the credit reporting agencies, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion.
It's like sounding the alarm and getting the right people in the case.
Exactly. You'll also want to contact your bank and credit card companies, immediately let them know about the situation, and follow their instructions for securing your accounts and preventing further damage.
It's like setting up a roadblock to stop those fraudulent transactions in their tracks.
Another essential step is to place a fraud alert on your credit reports. This notifies creditors to take extra precautions before issuing any new credit in your name. It's like putting a protective bubble around your credit history.
So we're contacting the authorities, alerting our financial institutions, and putting up a fraud alert shield. What else can we do to reclaim our stolen identity?
Don't forget to change your passwords for all your online accounts, especially those containing sensitive personal or financial information. Think of it as changing the locks on all your digital doors.
And I imagine it's crucial to gather as much evidence as possible, right?
Absolutely. Review your bank statements, credit card bills, and any other relevant documents for suspicious activity. Document everything carefully, including dates, times, and amounts. It's like piecing together a puzzle to understand the scope of the theft and build a strong case.
This is where our inner detective comes out. Are there any resources available to help victims navigate this process? It sounds pretty overwhelming.
There are definitely resources available. The FTC has a dedicated website for identity theft victims with step-by-step guidance and helpful resources. Several nonprofit organizations offer support and advocacy for identity theft victims as well.
That's reassuring to know. It's a reminder that even in those difficult moments, we're not alone.
Exactly. And remember, recovering from identity theft takes time and effort. It can be a frustrating and emotional experience, but with persistence and the right support, you can regain control of your identity and your financial well-being.
This has been an incredibly insightful journey into the world of travel-proofing our identities.
It has.
We've covered a lot of ground, from practical tips to preventative measures and even steps to take if our identity is compromised.
We have. It's all about being proactive, aware, and empowered to protect one of our most valuable assets, our identity. But we've got one more segment to go.
Okay.
Stay with us as we wrap up this deep dive with some final thoughts and insights.
Welcome back to the AnzenGuard Podcast. We've been on quite a journey exploring the ins and outs of travel-proofing your identity. It's fascinating how often we focus on, the excitement of travel.
I know, right?
But sometimes overlook the importance of protecting ourselves.
Yes.
In this digital age.
It's true. We think about packing the right clothes, booking the perfect accommodations, but protecting our identity should be at the top of that pre-travel checklist. It's as essential as your passport and travel insurance.
Absolutely. And as we've been discussing all these tips and strategies, it's become clear that identity protection isn't just about technology and gadgets.
Right.
It's about cultivating a mindful approach to how we handle our personal information.
You're exactly right. It's about creating a mindset shift where we're questioning requests for personal information, being cautious about what we share online, and always being aware of our digital footprint.
It's about being proactive rather than reactive,
Yes.
taking control of our online presence and refusing to be complacent about security.
Well said. And it's important to remember that identity thieves are constantly adapting their tactics. They're always looking for new ways to exploit vulnerabilities and trick unsuspecting victims.
Which means we need to stay informed and adapt our strategies accordingly. It's an ongoing learning process, almost like a game of cat and mouse, with those digital mischief makers.
A very apt analogy. And even with the best precautions in place, things can still happen. That's why it's so crucial to have a plan in case your identity is compromised.
Knowing what steps to take, who to contact, and what resources are available can make a world of difference in mitigating the damage and reclaiming your identity.
Absolutely. It's about being prepared for the worst, even while hoping for the best. And if the unfortunate does happen, remember that you're not alone. There are organizations and individuals dedicated to supporting identity theft victims and helping them navigate this challenging experience.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into travel-proofing your identity, what's the one message you want our listeners to take away?
Travel should be a time for exploration, discovery, and adventure. And by taking proactive steps to protect your identity, you can fully embrace those experiences with confidence and peace of mind.
Well said, Laura. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive. We hope you found this information valuable and empowering.
We do.
We encourage you to share your takeaways, ask any lingering questions, and join us next time for another AnzenGuard Deep Dive.
I'm Laura Wilson.
And I'm Michael Reynolds. This has been the AnzenGuard Podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with your fellow travel enthusiasts. Stay safe out there.